So we started with just her and just the two of us. It started with just the two of us. I was usually on a trapeze, a static trapeze, and she was on the ground. And she would do monologues and dialogues with me on the trapeze. It was about, our last show was about 45, 50 minutes, almost an hour long of her on the ground and me sitting on a trapeze, having conversations and then monologues and conversations and monologues. And then we didn't know what to do with our next project.
Yeah, and then I had previously worked with some of the commission hearing footage in like small iterations, like 20-minute pieces for Day of Remembrance programs. And in the back of my head, I always wanted to do something more theatrical and more full length, utilizing the footage. And about the time that we were figuring out what our next show was going to be, I asked Kennedy what he thought about just starting to experiment with some possibility of some kind of show. Not a redress story, not a camp play, but about like, you know, this moment of like breaking silence, which I thought was so powerful just to even just watch the footage. But I'm not a documentary filmmaker, so I was like, there's got to be a way that we can do this, some kind of piece anchored in this footage in the way that we create shows. Yeah. There's got to be some sort of way. And so that was around 2013, 2014 that we were having these conversations, and then the conversations started to extend to NCRR because we wanted to start looking at the actual footage. So we had sort of a long span of time of a lot of conversations, and then somehow, even from that very beginning show and tell, they just kind of trusted us to keep going. And then so they just trusted us, and then we did another a reading. We then did a reading of about like 13 scenes. By then, I felt like we were definitely needing more folks, and I kind of started to hear certain voices that became these characters. And at one point, I don't know if you remember this, but I was like, Kennedy, I think you're going to have to play like 12 characters. Yeah,
that's what it was.
And then it was just like, wait a minute. I think we need a cast.
Yeah.
And then you're you, and I'm me, and then there's these other people who embody many characters. So
it's kind of a mix-up of all of it. Devised theater comes from having no real story and coming together and having elements, just figuring out how elements come together. So at some points I would just be at the circus studio and I just film myself and I'd send it to Tracy and I'd say, does this look like anything that we could use? And or I'd come I'd come up with ideas, like maybe, or she'd come up with a scene, and I'd say, oh, that would be a great place for a globe. Globe, or juggling. I could be juggling at that point, or something like that. So it went back and forth.
I thought the most interesting stuff was the journey to the commission hearings, and I thought that was such an untold and mostly unknown story. I mean, redress, the whole redress story is fascinating and it's mostly unknown. But specifically the role that the commission hearings played, the role that NCRR played in getting people to speak out, the role that NCRR played in getting the commission out of DC and to come out to LA and, you know, all the cities that they went to, that's the thing that I thought was so fascinating. Just all the struggles, all the people who they really had to try to convince. So, you know, they just told us story after story, and it all sort of just got infused. And then when we got closer to understanding what this piece was shaping out to be, then we had a big session where they got to meet the workshop cast, and the cast got to meet them, and we had this big session. It was like, and Eric Newton was there, our circus consultant, Nancy Keystone, Dan Kwong, like Howard. We were all there, and then we actually just had we did some exercises where NCRR members went into various spots of kinetic theory and talked with actors, and then we had them improv stuff, and then from there, like that inspired a whole scene as well. So yeah, there are many conversations.
Yeah. At this moment.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, it was. I feel good.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, you know, we know like all the areas in which things were, you know, we were stumbling a little bit, you know, lines that were dropped and stuff. But that to me is little.
Yeah.
Those are little things. I think the bigger picture for me, you know, I probably feel relief. And I probably feel very good because I spoke with NCRR members afterward.
No.
And I think until speaking with them, I was like, what did they think? And because of their response, yes, I feel like...
That's one of the hardest parts, because we're such on, we've been just in it, our heads have been in the creative mode that there's a certain point where we just think, we don't know if anyone's going to get this because we've been inside it too long.
Yeah.
We don't know what it looks like from the outside, so we're just thinking, is anyone going to get it?
Right.
And so, again, I'm glad that we have such a talented cast who's just willing to do anything, you know, and really work hard, and the crew who's just willing to jump in and work whatever they can work. And I'm just amazed that we have this group of people helping tell the story that we created. Yeah.